Not to be like Jaden Smith, but can we actually talk about the economic and political state of the world? Hello everyone, I'm Amna. Here's my iced coffee, and this is me trying my best. Theodore Adorno, after the Second World War, said that it would be barbaric to write poetry after Auschwitz. And well, the age that we're living in right now, it's the age of the Epstein files, it's the age of Donald Trump. And during such times, I guess it's only natural for us to ask, what is the point? What is the point of engaging in art and literature anymore? When I was about to film this video, I was really nervous, and in my nervousness, I did leave one door of my cupboard open. It's there, you'll just have to ignore it. I'm sorry. I had the same question, and then I came across this article on Substack, which is what I'm going to talk about today. The article answered my questions through talking about two essays. I'm just going to call them essays by C.S. Lewis, the GOAT. C.S. Lewis existed during the First World War. He was a student at Oxford, and then he also fought in the trenches of World War I. And then when the Second World War started, he was a professor at Oxford, and he was delivering this sermon to the students who were at Oxford and would soon be going to fight in the trenches of the Second World War. How could they not have the same question? Of course they did, but they also had C.S. Lewis to give them some answers, and we also have his answers, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. I will, however, say one thing. I see that when people talk about C.S. Lewis, they kind of ignore the Christian aspects of whatever he had to say. C.S. Lewis was a devout Christian, and a lot of his writings have Christianity as a big focus. So even these two essays of his talk a lot about this world from a Christian perspective. It does have a Christian angle, and while I'm trying to keep this video universal, I am not gonna completely erase the Christian aspect of what C.S. Lewis was talking about. So if that's a video that you people do not want, what can I do? I'm gonna stay at least somewhat true to what C.S. Lewis was actually trying to say, instead of turning it into something that it was not, something more palatable to the general audience. Like, I'm not going to do that. If somebody wants to do that, I'm not against it. I have consumed content that kind of really secularized C.S. Lewis, or just remove the Christian aspects of his works. It's fine, but like, I'm not going to do that. C.S. Lewis was against this whole idea of kind of stopping your engagement with art and literature just because a war is going on. That wasn't him being insensitive. He just believed that a war created no new circumstances in this world. It simply intensified all the darkness, all the horribleness that existed in our planet already. It made it exposed, so much exposed that we could not ignore it anymore. And then C.S. Lewis also spoke about how throughout history there was always something that was bad or dark or just horrible. And if humans had waited for that thing to be dealt with, then they would have never created any art. They would have never created any new invention. He says that humans have a natural, God given appetite for art and beauty, and something that comes from God cannot be bad, and so humans shouldn't go against their nature. A lot of human nature is not good, but the human tendency to want beauty and art is not a bad tendency, and it is a kind of tendency that actually can do a lot of good in this world. So he says, we can therefore perceive knowledge as such and beauty as such in the sure confidence that by so doing we are either advancing to the vision of God ourselves or indirectly helping others to do so. Expanding on that, C.S. Lewis talks about how even in times where people feel that life is relatively peaceful, they will always have distractions. They will be busy falling in love or falling out of love, chasing a job, trying to get out of a job, getting out of a job without their own volition. So there will always be distractions. And that cannot stop us from engaging with art and literature. But the best point that I came across in these essays is this: humans have a tendency to consume content, and that tendency is not going to leave them no matter what kind of situation they are in. So, simply put, humans are always going to consume content. They are either gonna consume good content or they're gonna consume bad content. So I think the best example of this thing is Fruit Love Island, and Instagram Reels in general. Somebody might lose hope, somebody might feel like, what's the point in like trying to read books anymore? What's the point in me trying to create art anymore or engaging with it even? There's no point, life sucks, so I'm just not gonna read books, I'm just not gonna watch movies. But then there's this human tendency to consume content. So the person stops reading books, stops watching anything meaningful, but starts to consume mindless AI slop, mindless reels and TikToks. And not all reels and TikToks are mindless, and even the mindless things are good unless they're made by AI. But there is a limit. If you are spending hours in a day just lying in your bed in the depths of hopelessness and consuming nonsensical content, then what are you doing? So do not say that, well, I can't read books anymore or I can't watch anything meaningful anymore because there's no point. You have to consume things not because there's any inherent point to it, but because it's in your nature to do those things. And then C.S. Lewis talks about a big enemy that I think a lot of us fear the most. That is frustration. Times like these, people get frustrated, they get worried. They say, well, there is no point in me engaging with art and literature. There's no meaning in me trying to read more books or writing a book myself or making a movie myself, because what if I die before I finish those things? What's the point? What's the point in that case? Well, C.S. Lewis has a simple answer. You don't know. You don't know what's going to happen in the future, and you shouldn't live based on the future. Meaning that you should just take things one day at a time. You shouldn't question about what's going to happen in the future. Your job is to do the best job right now. Never, in peace or war, commit your virtue or your happiness to the future. Happy work is done by the man who takes his long term plans somewhat lightly and works from moment to moment. It is only our daily bread that we are encouraged to ask for. The present is the only time in which any duty can be done or any grace received. So, yes, never in peace or war commit your virtue or your happiness to the future. You do not depend on the future for your happiness. Your happiness, your satisfaction needs to come from this moment, what you do in this moment. You can't think about the future because the future honestly is so uncertain, right? Sometimes everything can go well for you, but in the future it can all come crashing down suddenly. And everything can look bleak and hopeless for you, but in the future things can suddenly work out. So you do not know, you do not get to guess or decide who has a chance of having completing his work in the future. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. You don't know if you're going to succeed or fail or live or die. So you don't get to decide whether something has a point in doing. You don't get to decide if there's a point in doing something right now because you don't know what's going to happen in the future. The other thing that people worry about is death and pain and suffering. And well, C.S. Lewis says that, well, we're all gonna die. So what makes you think that if you lived in peaceful times, you would not die a painful death? You probably still would. We're all gonna die. Bad times are at the most make our death a bit sooner than later. But again, it's not a new thing that we're fearing. That's what he says. Life has never been normal, even those periods which we think most tranquil, like the 19th century, turn out on closer inspection to be full of cries, alarms, difficulties, and emergencies. So that's the first essay, which was actually a sermon that C.S. Lewis delivered for his students at Oxford. The second essay that I'm going to talk about is called Living in the Atomic Age, and it begins like this. Somebody asks C.S. Lewis a question. How do we live in the atomic age? How do we live in an atomic age? I'm tempted to reply, why, as you would have lived in the 16th century, when the plague visited London almost every year, or as you would have lived in a Viking age when raiders from Scandinavia might land and cut your throat any night, or indeed as you already are living in an age of cancer, an age of syphilis, an age of paralysis, an age of air raids, an age of railway accidents, an age of motor accidents. So, how do we live in the atomic age? How do we live in the Trump age? The way we are already living in the age of plane crashes, in the age of cancer, and how people back in the Viking age used to live, going to sleep every night, knowing that they're gonna probably not wake up the next morning. So, yeah. C.S. Lewis, that's him for you. Quite a large percentage of us are gonna die in unpleasant ways. That's another thing that C.S. Lewis said. So why worry? C.S. Lewis said that if the atomic bomb had to come to us, it better find us doing sensible and human things like praying, working, teaching, reading, listening to music, bathing the children, playing tennis, chatting to our friends over a pint and a game of darts, not huddled together like frightened sheep and thinking about bombs. They may break our bodies, a microbe can do that, but they need not dominate our mindset. So, yes, if we have to perish under an atomic bomb, let us, when that atomic bomb comes to us, actually be doing human things, sensible things, happy things. Why destroy our peace and happiness before the atomic bomb even gets to us, if at all it does. And if it gets to us, let us not be crying and being frightened like sheep when it gets to us. Let us be having a good time. Let us have a good time until the very end of our lives. Because an atomic bomb can break our bodies, which a microbe can also do, but it need not dominate our mindset. And that's the end of the video. If you watched it until this point, then I'm really happy and I'm really grateful to you people. You are the best. I have always wanted to make content like this, but I've always kind of just been very shit at it and I've struggled really bad. But now I'm trying and I'm gonna get better one day, and when I do, you all can say that you are here since day one. So please like this video, subscribe to my channel so that you can say that you are here since day one. If I made any mistakes in this video, please let me know. And also, like, don't be too mean to me if I did. I probably did. I mean, like, what even is this video? But like, if you watched it, if you liked it, I'm so thankful to you. Please subscribe to my channel and I'll see you soon, hopefully in another video. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.